Good afternoon, good evening. Brian Farr here, VP Stock Analytics with Stock Dads. A lot to unpack here, so let's waste no time and let's just jump into it. Today is Thursday, January the 11th. This is your Daily Squeeze. All right, let's just go ahead and jump into everything. A lot to unpack here. We've got the live spot Bitcoin ETFs open now. There are 11 of those. Pretty much all of the major players are involved here, from BlackRock to VanEck to ARK, you name it. I think VanEck wins the title, though, taking on the ticker symbol HODL, HODL. Very good stuff there. Congrats to them on just coming up with that. I wonder how they did that. Anyway, today's big economic data, though, comes in the form of inflation data, the CPI, which measures out the cost of goods and prices paid by consumers for those goods and services. And it's measured and they get posted. So, yeah, here we are. CPI, here's the chart in front of you. This is the final reading of the year for December of 2023. We have CPI year over year came in at 3.4%. The expectation was 3.2%. So year over year inflation did come in hotter. I almost said hooter. That would have been bad. Hotter than expected. But the interesting part here is the core CPI, which came in slightly below the estimate here. Core year over year came in at 3.9%. The expectation was 3.8%, but it was lower than the prior reading of 4.0%. So sure, a little bit higher than expectations. I think I had that backwards earlier, but a little bit higher, 0.1, so a tenth percentage point higher than the expectation, but it did finally break below that 4% level. And before the reading here this morning, futures were positive, and it seems that there was some optimism going into today. But then once these numbers got reported, we pretty much shot down a good bit. We're trading at 48.30, and then we dropped down back below that 4,800 level, and that's the key spot right now for the S&P futures, is that 48.30 level. If we bring that up right now, I got the Bitcoin chart pulled up, but for the most part, 4,800 seems to be the battleground, and until we can get back above that, maybe we're just kind of stuck in a range trying to measure what's the next move. Seems like this market is still kind of waiting a little bit here, and as you can see, we can zoom in. We broke down below that 4,800 level and popped back above it. So this is definitely the battleground here, 4,800. But it's interesting that after this reading, and we even had Fed Mester come out and speak, and he was saying that we're not there yet for a rate cut for March. So we've had 4 Fed speakers, maybe more, coming out to say, it's too soon to be cutting rates right now. But for some reason, the market just has it in its head that there's going to be a rate cut for March. In fact, they're pricing in like a 70% chance of a rate cut for March. Does the market know something that we don't know? Perhaps. It is kind of interesting that no matter what the Fed speakers say, as long as it's not Powell, then the idea of a rate cut is a good probable situation for March. I don't know. I'd be happy to hear someone else's opinion on this just to see. But I'm also reminded of the phrase that the market can remain irrational more than you can remain solvent, which just means that no matter what you think, the market does not care. The market's going to do what it wants to do. And yeah, the brighter side of these readings right now is that the economy is in good shape. So inflation seems to be stabilized, even though it's not moving down to the 2% goal that the Fed has and that is mandated to control inflation. The economy is in good shape, and wages are still strong. So a lot of people should should be relatively in decent shape, even though if you ask, anybody out there, they could always use, some help. And yeah, I get it. Food prices, they're still crazy out there. Um, Shelter is still expensive. Even insurance. What was an interesting part of this inflation report is that insurance, car insurance, went up. So shocker. I mean, even I already know, my wife and I, we always talk about this. Our car insurance has gone up, and we don't, no wrecks, no priors or nothing, anything like that. So yeah, I guess it's just part of that world. But yeah, food increased, energy rose a little bit, new vehicle inflation up 1%, shelter up 6.2%. This is not the numbers that the Fed wants to see if they were going to cut rates. And we've already heard it from several different Fed speakers that they're not going to be raising rates. And yeah, I guess the bright side on this is that core CPI dipped below 4%. So here we are. Futures, they did dip below that 4,800 level, and we've popped back above it, and we're holding for the time being. So decent job though. Good bounce off the lows. Seems like we've held pretty good. In other news, though, other than the inflation report, I don't want to bore you with that news, even though it is a major talking point. Tomorrow, we do have the PPI inflation report. This is going to be the producer side of inflation. Usually, that does tend to follow the CPI reading. So, if by chance it is slightly cooler, that could bode well for the market. We'll have to see. We also have a slew of bank earnings from JP Morgan, Bank of America, BNY Mellon. So yeah, some good bank earnings tomorrow to unofficially kick things off for earnings season. So be on the lookout for those numbers, especially if you are involved in the financial sector. In other news, though, we did get some merger news here. CHK, Chesapeake Energy, coming out, releasing an announcement saying that they are merging with Southwestern Energy for about $7.4 billion. We've already seen a few of these energy names merged together or being bought out. ExxonMobil and Pioneer, CVX and Hess. They have both had mergers, and there's a few, APA, and I can't remember the other company. But we've already seen some of these mergers take place and some consolidation of the energy sector. But this will bring CHK as the larger U.S. producer of natural gas. And the deal is set to close in the second quarter here. And Chesapeake shareholders will own about 60% of this new company. And the other 40% will be owned by Southwestern Energy. And they will combine, merge, and form a new company with a new name. So be on the lookout for that and new details later on. As far as the market goes, yeah, pretty interesting stuff here. SPY closing slightly down, pretty much flat, down 0.04%. Energy closed up 0.26%. Crude oil up 1.7%. The NASDAQ closed, interestingly, slightly up 0.26%. We've had a pretty interesting move on the bonds. If we want to take a look at the bonds continue to be quite resilient here and holding above the daily 200 simple moving average. And as long as the bonds continue their bullish structure and bullish ways, then this market, all it wants to do is go up. So keep an eye on those bonds. This is the ZB, this is the 30-year bonds. The dollar surprisingly closed flat on the day. The Dow closed in the green, up only about 0.06%. Bitcoin, we did see the spot Bitcoin ETFs open up, like I said earlier, off the highs at 49, almost 49.5 there from the highs, but closing at about the 46,375. Well, not really closing because it's always trading, but at the market close, as of this recording, is at 46,375. Still holding its bullish structure. Keeping an eye on Ethereum as well, because Ethereum's having a nice little rally towards 27.15. One of my big questions about this whole Bitcoin ETF, spot ETF, is why not do Ethereum next? Ether is right up there as one of the most popular names next to Bitcoin. So why not? So we'll keep an eye on that. Ethereum's having a nice little ramp up, good breakout above that 2500 area, hitting a high of 2715. Definitely something to keep an eye on. In other news, just to kind of, we took a few day trades today. The first one was on Meta. I took the relative strength on this one early in the morning. It didn't pan out. Ended up losing 39%. Those contracts went from 1.9 to 1.15. So an L on that day trade to kick things off. But we fight in this market here. We go for the money. So we later took on an SPX 4775 call. Took those from $5.30 all the way to $8. That was 51% gain. And then we took a Tesla call. Tesla petered out and eventually had to scrub that for a loss, for about a minus 27% loss. But we ended the day on a very positive note. The 487.50 calls for Netflix. Netflix provided a great move, holding on to the 485 support level. This is its prior all-time high breakout level. Once I saw that this was holding and stabilizing above this key spot here, we went ahead and took some longs here, and it panned out really nicely, hitting our fib targets, our fib retracement levels at about, let's see, we hit our second target at 493.63 there, and those went from $3.80 all the way to $8 for a big 110% gain. So all in all, as far as the day trades go, ended up positive in the green thanks to Netflix and the SPX. Sure, we don't win them all with, as you can see with Meta and Tesla, but here we are. As far as news swings, I've gone ahead and entered into a new position here on Microsoft. I went with the February 400 contracts. Microsoft breaking out into lifetime highs here. We'll see if we can get that push into that 400 magnet territory. Had a decent close, up 0.49%, 384.63. It did have a little bit of tough time there at about that 385 mark, but overall the chart looks extremely bullish. It looks great. Structure is overall bullish. Can't complain too much in there. Also took some puts here on Coinbase. And the reasoning behind that is, well, with all these new products on the Bitcoin spot ETFs, Coinbase might take a hit. All those flows might start to go into those other new names, and Coinbase could take a little bit of a hit. And not to mention, from a technical standpoint, Coinbase is breaking this 144 support. It did hit a high of about 161.20 there, but unable to break that resistance level, and it got smacked down pretty good here, and on all the way down broke support. So couldn't break above resistance, and then all the way down and broke support and closed below it. So the next level for it to hold is for it to come all the way down here to this blue line, which is the daily 50 simple moving average, down at about that 130.26 mark. I took the 135 puts for next week. There was also a pretty decent sized whale here as well that I took notice of also, and we'll see if we can ride this on down with the whale and get us a move all the way down to the daily 50, also on that technical breakdown. So yeah, there's Coinbase and Microsoft. There are definitely a few tickers that I am still keeping an eye on. I want to keep an eye on Uber. Uber is right there at a key spot there at about the 64 level. If we get a breakout above 64, we're looking for a move towards about 67, give or take, on that. We're also keeping an eye on FedEx. FedEx has been stable, holding above the daily 200 there. Two ways we could probably play this. First off is if we have a breakdown of this 244 level and a daily close below the 200 simple moving average, that becomes a key short here. But if we also break above the swing high of about 255.63, we can also attempt to go long here and go into the gap. So pretty interesting stuff here on FedEx. It's been relatively quiet these past few days, but definitely want to keep an eye on that. Another one I want to keep an eye on is Marvel coming up to 52-week highs. Watch that 68 level as it progresses on ahead. And then, of course, I want to keep an eye on Berkshire Hathaway. Still no entry just yet. Still waiting for a move above this 369 37 mark, but still holding steady for now. All right, I think that's going to do it. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything out. We have PPI tomorrow with bank earnings, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. And to close out this week, let's take a look at the SPX real quick. Still holding structure, bullish trend overall. You got overhead at 48.18. And like I said, for the ES, it's all about that 4,800 mark. So as long as 4,800 holds, I mean, that's the battleground. Overhead 48, 41.50 is the breakout level. So here we are. Let's close out the week strong, guys. I'll see you guys in the morning, and we'll have a good one. All right. Take care. Bye.